Good afternoon, class. It is Mr. Wong here. So today we'll look at my Grammar Lab Unit 83. But before we do that, let's look at focus. Please turn to page 126 of focus. We'll check the answers in these two exercises you did last time. Alright, so let's look at exercise 2. So I've written down the answers here. Please check them carefully. Give yourself a tick if you're correct. So 1A, this one is special because both simple past were not informed and past perfect are acceptable. Alright, so you can write down were not informed or had not been informed. And the same applies to 1B. Both simple past did not inform and past perfect had not informed are correct. Alright. And then 2A and following 2B and being followed. 3A donate, 3B is donated. Please check your answers. And then let's move on to exercise 3. So number 1, a new president is being elected. So when we see the phrase at the moment, we use continuous tense, present continuous. It means now, right? So it's being elected. And number 2 was the case still being investigated by the police officers 2 days ago because of the word still. So we use the continuous tense. 3, Amy has just been employed because in this sentence, the time is not very obvious, right? So we use present perfect. And 4, how often is charity bake sale organized at your school? 5, Tim told us he. So 2 days before, but for reporter speech, we have to use past perfect, right? And 6, when was Peter excluded from school? 7, I don't think the stolen painting will be found very soon. 8, how much money has been raised for charity since last month? Okay. So please check your answers. And then let's go to my grammar lab. So please turn to page 83. We'll talk about the passive voice in greater detail. Right? It should be page 252 of your book. Alright, so let's look at the notes one by one. Number 1, we use a form of be plus past participle of the verb to form passive voice. Right? So I'm going to use 2 colors. For example, here they buy their clothes in sales. Okay, so I use pink to highlight the verb. And how about passive voice? I'll use green to highlight the past participle. Okay, so you can see that here we have 2 words. Their clothes are bought in the sales. Right, so remember we have to keep the tense when we change a sentence from active to passive. Alright, okay, let's take a look. Simple tenses, they import all the clothes from China. So here are imported from China. So did Fabio design her dress? So because this is a question, so we have to use the word did, right? So did Fabio design her dress? And then passive, was her dress designed by Fabio? So again, we use green color to highlight the past participle. And then for continuous, be very careful because originally the first sentence is somebody's washing her jeans. So somebody is washing her jeans. So we have 2 words here, right? So in the passive voice, we have to keep the tense. So we use are being because jeans are plural, right? So her jeans are being and then past participle, washed. And then they weren't selling those designs last year. Again, 2 words. And then passive, those designs weren't being and then sold last year. Okay, and then perfect tenses, I haven't ironed your shirt yet. Your shirt hasn't been ironed yet. So we have to use PP for perfect tense, haven't ironed, right? But here, the PP, we have 2 PPs, right? Hasn't been, because be, will become been, and then we use the past participle ironed. Okay, so 2 words become 3 words. And the same for past perfect. People had seen that design before. Had seen. So passive, that design had been and then seen before. And then will, they will post the results tomorrow. The results will be posted tomorrow. And then we need to repair your shoes. Your shoes need to be repaired. So we add be here. And I'm not going to finish the report today. The report isn't going to be finished today. Okay, so we use be and then past participle finished. And then for this one, put a star here. I hate people shouting at me. So after hate, we use the ing form. So here, I hate being shouted at. Okay, so ing after hate and then past participle shouted. Right. Okay, let's look at another note. In spoken and informal written English, we sometimes use a form of get instead of be. So highlight it. So for example, what happened? Did he get beaten up? We got stuck in the lift for an hour. Okay, so we use get here instead of the verb to be. Okay, so this is acceptable in spoken and informal written English. Okay. And then if we want to say who or what does an action, we use by. We talked about this yesterday, right? So by and then that agent. We add a noun after by. For example, Katie Holmes' wedding dress was designed by Giorgio Armani, by that person. Did you buy that sweater from a shop or was it knitted by your mother? Okay. And then for some verbs, they cannot be made passive. For example, arrive, come, grow up, happen, wait. Okay, so we cannot say I was grown up. We always say I grew up. And then an email has been arrived. For arrive, we can only use it in the active voice. So an email has arrived. All right, and be careful with this one. Born is always passive. So I was born in 1990. Okay, where were your parents born? All right, so born is always passive. Okay, so let's turn to the next page. So why do we use the passive? So these are the reasons. For example, the first one. So it doesn't matter who does the action. The votes will be counted at the end of the meeting. Have the parcels been delivered? So it doesn't matter who does that action. Second bullet point, we know or can guess who does the action. Okay, so it doesn't have to be mentioned. For example, here's your skirt, it's been dry cleaned. Okay, so obviously by the dry cleaners. Okay, so I brought my car to your garage yesterday. Has it been repaired yet? All right, so that is too obvious, so we don't have to state who did that action. We don't know or we don't want to say who does the action. For example, my bicycle has been stolen, so I don't know who stole it. Or I see the washing out hasn't been done again. I don't want to say who hasn't done it. Okay. And the next one, we want to talk about general feelings or beliefs. So this one, put a star here. It is very useful for argumentative writing because we want to sound less subjective. Okay, we want it to sound more objective. For example, the building is believed to date from the 13th century. Okay, so it is the same as most people believe this. Okay, but it sounds more objective. So it's useful for argumentative writing. And then we want to be polite or we are in a formal situation. For example, have the reports been typed yet? Instead of saying, have you typed the reports yet? Okay, so this one sounds more polite. And your application will be assessed by the manager. Okay, so in passive voice it sounds more formal. All right. Okay, and then be careful when you use it in writing. Take a look at this bullet point. So it usually prefers to start a sentence with known information and put the new information at the end. So compare these two sentences. Okay, look at this one. Jennifer Lopez wore an amazing wedding dress. Full stop. Vera Wang designed it. Okay, so this is the known information. This is the known information. So they're separated by Vera Wang designed. Right. And how about this one, the next one? Jennifer Lopez wore an amazing wedding dress. It was designed by Vera Wang. Okay, so here the known information is put together. Okay, so it's easier for readers to follow. Okay, so I think this one is better. Okay, the second one is better than the first one. Okay, and one more thing we need to pay attention to. For example, we generally don't like to put a long subject before the verb. Okay, so we use the passive voice to move the subject towards the end of the sentence. For example, let's compare these two sentences. The low prices on a selection of summer suits in the shop window attracted us. So this phrase is too long, right? So instead of saying this, we can turn it into passive voice. We were attracted by. Okay, so it can be easier to say and easier for other people to understand, right? Okay, the last point here, so common uses of the passive. We often use the passive in these situations. For example, in news reports, you can hear that a lot. For example, 3 men have been arrested. Okay, and the second one, academic and scientific writing. So when you are at university, you use this a lot when you write essays, right? For example, 3 possibilities have been suggested, and this will be examined in chapter 3. So it sounds more academic and formal. And then again, for instructions and rules, this plant needs to be watered daily. And then the last one, describing methods, ways of working. For example, staff expenses are recorded on Form SE11 and supported by receipts. All right. So when we talk about procedures, and then when we describe methods and ways of working, we often use the passive. Okay. Okay, so let's do some classwork together. So please turn to the next page. Okay, please do exercise 1, 2, and 3 as classwork. Alright, so now please pause your video and then complete these exercises, and then we'll check the answers together. Alright, pause the video now. Okay, so you should have done your questions, so let's look at the answers together. So exercise 1, the lights have been turned off. Remember, for these sentences we have to keep the original tense, right? So present perfect for this one, the lights have been turned off. Number 2, you will be sent an email tomorrow, future tense. 3, they aren't making, so pay attention to this one. So that model isn't being, and then past participle, isn't being made anymore. Right? 4, do I have to fill in this form? Does this form have to be filled in? So be careful. Does this form? So we use have here. Have to be filled in. And don't miss out the preposition in. And then 5, they haven't repaired your computer yet. Your computer hasn't been repaired yet. 6, the road is going to be closed for 24 hours. Right? And then exercise 2, the roads are being counted. Number 2, this castle was built. 3, the roof needs to be repaired. 4, the bridge will be finished next year. 5, the dishes haven't been washed yet. Okay. And exercise 3, number 1, the final invitations are being sent out at the moment. Number 2, Jane Anderson hasn't been invited to the wedding. 3, the deposit for the reception was paid last week. 4, Lucy has brought her wedding dress, but it has to be altered. So altered means changed, right? A small change. And 5, the price of the dress had been reduced by the shop. 6, the ceremony is going to be filmed by Lucy's aunt. 7, the formal photos will be taken by professional photographer. And number 8, the catering. Catering refers to the food and drinks. The catering is being done by Antonio. Okay, so let's look at your homework for today. So exercise 4, please write down homework. And today's date, 13th of May, exercise 5 and exercise 6 as well. So please do these 3 exercises today, and we'll check the answers during the Zoom lesson tomorrow at 2:30. Okay, so goodbye class, have a nice day, see you tomorrow.